All right. Thank you all so much for being here on an incredible evening. My name is Kristen Baird Adams. I'm the immediate past president of the City Club Board of Directors and a very proud co-chair of the Guardians of Free Speech campaign. And Dan's going to share a little bit more detail about what we're all here to celebrate tonight, which none of it would have been possible without the generosity of all of you incredible people gathered here. And so many of my heroes are here tonight. I've learned so much from all of you about what it means to be of your community and to give back to your community. But before we get there, and again, that's Dan's great message to share, I have the privilege, on behalf of my Guardians of Free Speech campaign co-chairs, Paul Harris, one of my heroes, and Fareed Sadiq, also here, and our entire campaign committee. Dan will talk a bit more about that. To thank the extraordinary staff of the City Club of Cleveland, the little engine that could, for their grit, their courage, their determination, and their patience about making sure that the Guardians of Free Speech campaign was in fact a success. And as Dan will share in a bit, that campaign has secured for generations to come, the City Club of Cleveland, this beautiful home for civil civic dialogue in our gorgeous new home here in Playhouse Square, which we have just reaping the benefits of every day. The entire staff works so hard. It's a small but mighty team. But in particular, Dan Moulthrop and Julie and Noelle and Amber worked painstakingly to organize, orchestrate, schedule this campaign that is paved the way for the future of civil civic dialogue here in Cleveland, right here at the City Club. And I think you'd all agree that it has never been more important than in this very difficult time for our country. So just again, thanks all of you for your generosity. I'm going to turn the program over here to our fearless leader, the one and only Dan Moulthrop.
Hey guys, it's so nice to see all of you. Thank you so much for being here. And Kristen, thank you so much. Your partnership in this effort in particular has been so supportive and sustaining. And please turn your phone off. Whose phone is that? Thank you. You and I have known each other for 17 years or so. And if you go back to the beginning, which is probably like the middle of the 2008 foreclosure crisis, I don't think either of us would have predicted that we would team up to do what we've done. So thank you so much. Thank you. This event is truly about gratitude, and so I'm going to be thanking a lot of people, and I want to set expectations as I get into this. It probably won't go on too long, 90 minutes tops. So, but first off, I want to thank Lita Obertas, who's right over here. As everybody was making their way in, I said hello to Lita. She's on our board, and she looked at me and she said, "Dan, there's something in your teeth." And she was right. There was something. And so, Lita, thank you. I can't believe the rest of you jerks didn't tell me. In all seriousness, though, I do want to start. I've got some family here, and I want to thank my family. My mother is here. Hi, Mom. As if everything you've done wasn't enough, Dianu, right? You also contributed to the campaign. And so thank you so much. You are the best. My in-laws are here too, Sal and Lisa Russo, Mom and Dad. Thank you. You have been so supportive in everything that Dorothy and I have tried to do in this community. And from the day we got back here for Dorothy, but got here in 2005, and even before that, really. Thank you so much for everything, and thank you for your contribution to the campaign. And speaking of my wife, Dorothy, Dr. Dorothy Moulthrop, the better 85% of our partnership, she couldn't be here tonight. Many of you know this, but this is kind of what nonprofit civic leadership looks like in a lot of communities. Sometimes you just have these unavoidable conflicts, and you can't show up for your partner. And let me just say that no one, though, has provided more support, more emotional support to me than Dorothy Moulthrop. So she's been there every moment. 2 of my children are here. 2 of my 3 children are here as well, who have provided a lot of support, Elisa and Nico. Thank you both, and please tell Mom that I love her. We're going to keep rolling with the gratitude here for a moment. I want to acknowledge our partners at Driftwood, who have fed us tonight. Please give our partners at Driftwood a round of applause. Huge round of applause. Also, Opus 216, who provided they're not here right now. I don't know where they disappeared to. There they are. They're in the back. Please come in and eat. There's room at the back. We've got food for you. Thank you, guys. You were amazing. They are available for your party as well. Kristen Baird Adams was joined in chairing our campaign by Paul Harris and Fareed Sadiq, who have been just absolutely amazing in your leadership, and I thank you both so much. At any moment when I might have been tempted to give up, the 3 of you believed and showed us how to keep moving forward, often providing just the right incentive for us and for others. You created the momentum that got us through and across the finish line, and we're very, very grateful. I also want to thank our honorary co-chairs, Dick Pogue, who is with us tonight. Hello, Dick. Dick was joined by Carol Hoover, who couldn't be here tonight, and Shar Fowler, who is here tonight. Shar is amazing. I love Shar. Every time I mention Shar from the stage, she always says this like, oh, no. But Shar, you and Chuck, you made the first ginormous pledge to the campaign. And it was an incredible, incredible gift, and I thank you so much. Thank you so much. The other honorary co-chair was Bob Grease, who passed away in 2023. Bob was a giant in this community, and when you think about that sort of like standing on the shoulders of giants, I mean, it's really, but for him, so many things in our community wouldn't have happened. He and his family have been such stalwart supporters of our work here at the City Club for so long. His great uncle was one of our founders, and I remember him so fondly. And you know, in the Jewish tradition, we often say, may his memory be a blessing, and his memory is indeed a blessing to all of us. Those leaders were joined by a roster of others on our campaign committee, and you see all of their names in our impact report. And at this moment, I'd like to invite all of our campaign committee members, including our chairs and honorary chairs, to stand, please, to be recognized, so we can just thank all of you. You guys have been absolutely amazing. You all stood with us and with democracy. You stood with free speech, and you did so without fear. Knowing our work, our mission, and our mission makes this community and our democracy stronger. We thank you so much. And I'd like to thank all of you, the donors, all of you, who stepped up, whose contributions total more than $12 million in this effort. Some of you have never pledged to a campaign before, and we're so grateful to be the beneficiaries of your growing philanthropic impulses. Some of you added our institution to the roster of things you care most about, and we're honored that you've done so. Kristen also mentioned let me pause for a second. You really should give yourselves a round of applause at that. I'm sorry. Kristen mentioned gratitude for our colleagues, and I thank them too. And I'd also like to thank a few external folks who have helped us out. Lindsay Marciniak and her colleagues at CCS did our feasibility study that some of you participated in that gave the catalyst to begin this journey so long ago. And Megan Granson and Kate Newsom of In Bloom walked with us every step of the way of that journey. Megan and Kate, you are the engine. You are also the guardrails. You're the secretary and the archivist, the brains and the brawn. You are the butter and also the bread, and I thank you. Thank you so much. I mentioned Bob Grease before. He's one of two individuals who were critical to this campaign who left us too soon. Alyssa Janarakis-Raybuck was a treasured colleague of all of ours, and you've seen her photo pop up along with Bob Grease's photo and many others. But she joined us when we first started the campaign, specifically to help make this campaign happen. Alyssa's husband, Will, and her sister, Marina, are here, I think. Are they? Yeah, there you are. Thank you. Hey, what's up? Thank you. Give it up for Alyssa. If you knew Alyssa, you know. If you didn't, you should have. She was great. So back when I applied for this job, back in the beginning of 2013, I think it was, I had this sense about this organization. I absolutely loved it. I had loved it from the day that Jim Foster, who is here with us, hello Jim, Jan, hello. Ever since a day in 2005 when Jim Foster had the lack of wisdom to put me on the stage to moderate a mayoral primary debate. Mayor Campbell was running against City Council President Frank Jackson, Safety Director Jim Draper, Euclid Mayor David Lynch, some guy in a cowboy hat, and probably two or three others. And I fell in love with the city and with the community that day, and I also fell in love with the City Club. From that day on, every time somebody asked me, the City Club asked me to do something, I said yes, including even serving on a special programs committee with John Guest, which was probably a mistake. But what I always sensed about the City Club was how great it was and how much potential there was. In this community, and I suppose in many communities, we get used to the way things are. It's hard to see what they could be sometimes. You know, it's like when you buy a house and you take down a wall and you blow out the kitchen and you think, why didn't the previous owners ever do this? Communities can be like that with their own assets sometimes. And sometimes someone needs to come along with fresh eyes and take what's familiar and make it more. Our friends at IdeaStream did that with a couple of broadcast stations about 20-some years ago. Brian Zimmerman and the Metro Parks have done that with the incredible assets that we have there. And in 2013, I kind of thought we might be able to do that with the City Club. The bones of the organization were great, the mission was solid, and I wanted to see just how much more we could do with it. The board kind of took a flyer on me at the time. I mean, I was truly untested, and I really appreciate the risk-taking that required. From those very early days, look at Calabrese laughing at me, like, yeah, I wouldn't have hired you, he's thinking, like. From those very early days of my time here, I heard from the board that we should do a campaign, a really ambitious campaign. I was like, you know, we're not ready, which was mostly like, I'm not ready. And they want us to grow the endowment, think about possibly moving to a new home at some point. It was not clear to me how we would accomplish any of that. But in 2017, as I mentioned earlier, some of you were willing to meet with our consultants to tell them whether you thought we would be successful in a major fundraising campaign. What we heard back was a resounding yes, a projection that if we worked really, really hard and really stretched, we might be able to raise about $7 million. So I'm gonna move along here a little bit, but along the way, we decided an endowment campaign wasn't enough. We added a new home to our dreams, and we got our first $1 million pledge, as I mentioned, from Char and Chuck Fowler, and there was one string attached to that pledge. One string, that the forum would never have its naming rights sold. So right? That's the greatest restrictive asset we have. Shar said the City Club needs to be the people's forum. It should always belong to the people of this community. And she was right. So we were raising money. And we were off to the races, and that pledge from Shar and Chuck was finalized in February of, Chuck's notes, 2020. I was ready to go. And then March happened. So I'll spare you the traumatic retelling of the tragedies of COVID, but let's just put it at this. There were 16 months of online forums, and then figuring out how to restart our work, not just the programming and bringing people back together in person, but also how to start talking about fundraising again, when we weren't even sure if our capital project, if the new home was actually going to go. But here's the best part of the story. When that first vision of a new home was stalled by the pandemic, an amazing opportunity opened up. And it's all Mark Ross's fault. When we restarted the campaign, Mark Ross, who's now our board chair and who's sitting right over there, by the time we restarted the campaign, Mark was on our board, and he suggested one day in 2022 that, we really ought to meet with Gina Vernacci and Art Falco. Like, really? Julie and I were thinking, really? Didn't we meet with them? Because we had, when we were looking around at other stuff, we'd met with them pre-COVID, and they had some nice spaces, but none of it was like, it wasn't going to work. And Mark's like, no, really, you should. It's different now. Okay. So we had this fateful meeting, and it would not have happened if it weren't for Mark. We walked around the district, and we looked at Calvin Hubbard a few doors down. It was empty. We looked at the gallery next to it and the other space around there. And then we were walking by here with these big windows. I said, what's going on in there? Tom Einhaus says to me, he's like, well, Dwellworks owns that, or has the lease on that. They're still paying the lease. It seems fine. They haven't said anything. But the cubicles, and it was a cubicle farm from front to back, and it was empty. Every day it was empty. I said, well, would you check it out? Would you find out if they want it? He's like, yeah, sure, I'll ask. Turns out they didn't want it. Turns out they were trying to sublease it. And it turns out it was a perfect fit. So we began meeting and dreaming in earnest about this space. This space, which originally, 100 years ago, had been designed as a retail space for a small retail establishment called Woolworths. I don't know if you've heard of Woolworths. And so it literally opened its doors as Woolworths 100 years ago. So you can imagine all sorts of pharmacy type stuff 100 years ago. I don't know what they sold. I don't know. It's not like CVS today, but whatever it was, right? And there was probably a soda fountain in the back and all of that stuff. And over the years, in between Woolworths and Dwellworks, there were all sorts of stuff being sold in and out of here. I think there were rugs at one point. I think there was luggage. Federico probably knows exactly because he was watching it from across the street at the GCP. Oh, there's another store opened up over there. I'm pretty sure I bought a piece of luggage here in 2007. So we had this opportunity to remake retail space as a space for retail civic engagement at the street level, where you could, as you walk by on the sidewalk, you could see yourself. You could see the conversation happening and imagine yourself with a seat at the table, where forum participants could feel the very city through the windows, and where the forum itself could be an extension of the public realm. And in meeting after meeting with our architects and designers at DLR, hi Chris, hi Charlie in the back, hey guys. Those ideas and those values of transparency and openness and a space that would create a sense of belonging, a space of retail civic engagement began to take shape. And we've seen this come to fruition. The day we cut the ribbon and opened our doors, we had protesters. I wish Craig Hassel were here because they were mad at him. The protesters were protesting Craig Hassel, who had just taken over at Playhouse Square. And then twice in the past few months, we've had protesters too. When State Senator Jerry Serino spoke from this stage just a couple of weeks ago, he was standing here and he looked out at the protesters and he talked about the protests. And it was truly a moment where the architecture and the space itself changed the conversation. It was remarkable. The forum is an extension of the public realm. Nice job. Good job, guys. Great work. So I know I'm not alone in having big aspirations for our city club. Together, we've created a place that is worthy of those aspirations. And we've done that in a neighborhood that is truly worthy of what we dream of and welcomes and amplifies those aspirations. My colleague Noelle Celeste, who couldn't be here tonight, likes to speak about creating a city club for all. And I think that's right. Just earlier today, this room was full of high school students who are members of the LGBT communities and allies of the LGBT community. They had planned a small summit for students across the Cleveland School District, and venue after venue was either too expensive or unavailable to them because of executive orders coming out of the White House and fear that people had. So we welcome them. We are a city club for all. Last week, back-to-back forums, Thursday and Friday, we welcomed to our stage a former official from the first Trump administration, and then the next day an author and Harvard professor who was a finalist for the Anisfield Wolf Book Awards. We are a city club for all. In this new space, on this new stage, we have welcomed the president of the Jewish Federations of North America and members of our local Arab American communities who have family in Gaza. We're a city club for all. This is a place that you've helped to create where everyone feels welcome, a house of fellowship, if you will, where strangers need no introduction. I'm sorry. I didn't expect to get emotional at this part, actually, but honestly, like, the history of this really hits me sometimes. The last line, this idea that strangers need no introduction, that's from the creed of the City Club. It was written 109 years ago by Ralph Hayes, who was the first paid executive of the City Club, and I'm going to share it with you right now. I hail and harbor and hear people of every belief and party, for within my portals, prejudice grows less and bias dwindles. I have a forum as wholly uncensored as it is rigidly impartial. Freedom of speech is graven above my rostrum, and beside it, fairness of speech. I am the product of the people, a cross-section of their community, weak as they are weak and strong in their strength, believing that knowledge of our failings and our powers begets a greater strength. I have a house of fellowship. Under my roof, informality reigns, and strangers need no introduction. I welcome to my platform the discussion of any theory or dogma of reform, but I bind my household to the espousal of none of them, for I cherish the freedom of every person's conviction, and each of my kin retains their own responsibility. I have no axe to grind, no logs to roll. My abode shall be the rendezvous of strong but open-minded individuals, and my watchword shall be information, not reformation. I am accessible to people of all sides, literally and figuratively, for I am located in the heart of the city, spiritually and geographically. I am the city's club, the City Club. So, if that's the job description, I think we're kind of nailing it. You know, last week, I want to say just a quick word about that idea of prejudice growing less and bias dwindling. When we hosted Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross last week, and he was in the Trump administration, one of the small number of cabinet secretaries who lasted the full 4 years. And listening to Secretary Ross describe what it was like to work with President Trump when he was a casino developer, it's a long story. I'm not going to get into it, but I have to say, prejudice grew less and my bias dwindled. I thought, okay, I understand this better. It was not an insignificant shift that I felt, but it happens at every forum. Each of you can think of a forum where you have come here prejudging somebody or their message, and when you left, there was less of that prejudice. The bias you may have felt dissipated, at least a little bit. And that's what we're doing here. We are guardians of free speech. We listen to challenging ideas without fear. We protect this platform where those ideas are shared. We encourage debate, and probably most importantly, Jan Roller, we ask the best questions. We believe that the right conversation at the right time can change how our community deals with a really challenging issue. And my goodness, sir, just kidding. Please show him the door. We believe the right conversation at the right time can change how our community deals with really challenging issues. And then we stick around afterwards to hash it out with others and sometimes debate the speaker. We're guardians of free speech. Hope you'll wear these Guardians pins with pride. In a moment, two things are going to happen. First, we're going to share once again, for one last time, our campaign video. I was watching it earlier today, and it still resonates. After that, you can get dessert, and you're also invited to check out the donor wall, which was behind curtains just outside this forum. That wall will honor and recognize the generosity of donors who contributed anywhere from $10,000 to $1 million. Now, if you look at that wall and you think, geez, I really would like my name to be on there, it's not too late. And a couple of other quick things. After the video, we're going to get the Cavs game on the screens so that we can stick around and enjoy that. And if any of you want to ring the gong or get a photo of yourself with the gong, that is available to you tonight as a note, our token of gratitude to you. So now, one last time, the video that tells the story of our campaign, a story that you helped to write, and a story that you helped us bring to a really satisfying resolution.
We at the City Club hail ourselves as a citadel of free speech. That's because since 1912, we have provided our platform for speakers to discuss topics of the day.
First and foremost, we're in the democracy business. We're in the experience of providing a platform for people to participate in democracy that goes beyond the ballot box. It's about shaping community conversation.
I commend this club very, very warmly for being a beacon, a symbol, and a sentinel for freedom, for justice, for tolerance.
What maintains democracy? What are the pillars of democracy? And how do we understand that as a citizenry? And the only way to fully understand and comprehend is to wrestle with democracy. That's been the exercise and the experiment, since the Constitutional Convention. And so we're still having those conversations here.
It is a place where week in and week out, dialogue on the most critical topics and issues of our time are occurring. And it invites a healthy discourse, and it invites conversation that leads to change.
Hello, Cleveland. Every sitting president since Ronald Reagan has come here to the City Club of Cleveland. And that's because this is an institution that reflects what is a truly American idea. That's the belief that all of us have a role to play in resolving the most important issues of our time.
After 9/11, I was asked by the City Club be on a panel and talk about what does it mean to be a Muslim in America. No other place at that time especially was willing to hear what does it mean to being a Muslim and living in this country and going through the trauma that we are going through and be able to explain what it means to us.
I think I've been a City Club member at least 50 years. I wanted to learn more about what was going on in the world. I think it's important that everybody learns that there are usually two views on almost any subject, and before you make up your mind what you're going to do, you should hear both sides.
I think you have to think of it as the community's microphone. When the community has to have a conversation and they have to look for a place to get the message out, the City Club is the vehicle.
It wasn't my checkbook, it was my life that was on the line. You go with me to any Gold Star mother and you look her in the eye and you tell her that her son did not hold a job.
One of the things that people might not realize about what the City Club does is this opportunity to come together with folks that you wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to meet in your specific sector or potential clients or things like that. I challenge anyone to come to the City Club and not learn something new and not meet someone new.
The City Club is important to me because the stature, the quality of speakers, the commitment to not just free speech is a vital part of democracy, but informed free speech.
One thing that I have always believed is 3 sentences that were said by a prophet of 2,000 years ago. If I'm not for myself, who will be? But if I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? And I'm the 5th generation of the first Jewish settler in the city of Cleveland. And the City Club is even more important today than it ever was in the past.
The Guardians of Free Speech, for me, I think the first thing I go to is thinking about like the definition of what a guardian is, right? And for me, it's a defender, it's a protector, it's a keeper. And I think it's really important that, again, in this really precarious time that we're living in the United States, that we have these sacred spaces where an individual or an institution can, in fact, defend, protect, and be the keeper of free speech.
If we want to make sure that future generations of Clevelanders can rely on a place, a platform for civil civic dialogue, a guardian of free speech, a citadel of free speech, a place where the community can come together, then it's incumbent upon us to invest today. This is our work. And when we're successful, we'll have a new home for civic dialogue in Playhouse Square in the heart of downtown, and we'll have a $10 million endowment that will sustain and protect this organization for generations to come.
When a word must be spoken to further a good cause, and those whom it behooves to speak remain silent, anybody ought to speak and break the silence, because sometimes one word spoken at the right time can be sufficient to save a nation or a life.
Thank you all so much. As I said, I think there's dessert outside. There's a donor wall you should inspect to make sure we spelled your name right. And we're really overflowing with gratitude here. Thank you so much, all of you, for being a part of this extraordinary campaign. One of my board members, I do want to note, Fareed, along with other colleagues on the board, I thank all of you who are on the board and who have assisted us. Just a couple of weeks ago in a meeting with Fareed, he suggested that we should really start thinking about the next campaign. So we have some literature for you. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, thank you all so much. You are absolutely wonderful. Thank you for being guardians of free speech. Enjoy the rest of the evening. And let's go Cavs.